There are giants. There are warriors. There are monsters. But then there is Brock Lesnar, a man who walked into WWE and conquered it, a man who walked into the UFC and conquered it, a man who disappeared, came back and rewrote history every single time. Yet what makes Brock Lesnar so fascinating isn't just his size, his speed, or his violence inside the ring. It's the mystery. Because behind the beast, behind the snarls and suplexes, lies one of the most unpredictable, most private, and most unstoppable forces in sports history. How does a farm boy from the cold plains of South Dakota grow into one of the most feared athletes alive? How does a man disappear at the peak of his career, only to return bigger than ever, shocking the world again and again? And what drives someone who already has everything, money, fame, titles, to keep coming back for more? Stay with me, because Brock Lesnar's life is not just a story of power. It's a story of struggle, of pain, of reinvention, and of a man who refused to live by anyone's rules but his own. And if you love these epic journeys, the kind that feel like a blockbuster movie, make sure to hit subscribe right now, because this story will leave you speechless. Let's rewind. Back to July 12, 1977. Webster, South Dakota. Population, just over 1,800 people. Cold winters, quiet fields, hard-working families. This is where Brock Edward Lesnar was born, the third son of dairy farmers Richard and Stephanie Lesnar. His childhood wasn't about luxury. It was about survival. He grew up waking before dawn to help with farm chores, carrying heavy buckets, wrestling with livestock, pushing his body before he even understood what strength meant. Those long days built the foundation for something monstrous. But Brock was never just another farm kid. He had something burning inside him, a restlessness, a hunger. He wanted more than the farm, more than the small town, more than ordinary life. At school, his body began to change faster than the other kids. He grew taller, broader, stronger. His arms looked like sledgehammers, his back like a wall. By the time he hit high school, Brock wasn't just big, he was terrifying. And then came wrestling. From the moment he stepped on the mat, coaches knew they had something special. Brock didn't just win matches, he demolished opponents. Explosive speed, unnatural strength, a level of aggression most teenagers couldn't even imagine. But here's a surprising fact. Brock Lesnar almost joined the military before wrestling took over. He even enlisted, but his red-green color blindness disqualified him from certain roles, a twist of fate that pushed him back toward wrestling. And so, his destiny was set. By the time he left high school, Brock was a two-time state champion. But he wasn't done. He wanted to test himself against the best. That hunger carried him to college wrestling, and there he would rise to another level. But his road wouldn't be easy, because even for a beast like Brock, the world had surprises waiting. College wrestling, where dreams are broken, where only the strongest survive. And Brock Lesnar didn't just survive, he conquered. He first attended Bismarck State College in North Dakota. 2 years there, and he became a junior college national champion. His raw power, his explosiveness, his refusal to quit, it all set him apart. But Brock wanted more.
he transferred to the University of Minnesota, where the competition was fiercer, the opponents sharper, the spotlight brighter. And standing in his way, some of the toughest wrestlers in the nation. One name stood out, Stephen Neal, an NCAA powerhouse, a future NFL player. And in 1999, Neal handed Brock a crushing defeat in the NCAA finals. Most athletes would have broken. Most would have doubted themselves, but not Brock Lesnar. He used that loss like fuel. The next year, 2000, Brock returned to the NCAA finals. This time, there was no stopping him. With explosive takedowns and bone-crushing power, he dominated his way to victory. Brock Lesnar was now the NCAA heavyweight wrestling champion. The farm boy had become the king of the mat. Here's a hidden gem. During his college years, Brock had a record of 106 wins and only 5 losses. That's right, 106-5. That's dominance most wrestlers can only dream of. But even then, Brock wasn't satisfied, because deep down he knew wrestling wasn't the final destination. It was just the beginning.
He wanted more. He wanted the world. And the world was waiting. Because somewhere out there, a company called World Wrestling Entertainment had its eye on him. Think about it. A 6'3" monster, 265 pounds of raw power. NCAA champion. He wasn't just an athlete, he was a spectacle. In 2000, Brock signed with WWE's developmental territory, Ohio Valley Wrestling. And from the moment he stepped into that training ring, jaws dropped. But here's the twist. Brock Lesnar wasn't the only future star in OVW. He trained alongside Randy Orton, John Cena, Batista, and Shelton Benjamin, a golden generation of talent that would reshape wrestling forever. With his size, speed, and presence, Brock stood out even among giants. He wasn't just good, he was terrifying. By 2002, Brock was ready. WWE unleashed him on the world. And what followed was nothing short of a revolution. Because in just a few months, Brock Lesnar would do what no rookie had ever done before. He would go from debut to world champion. And the wrestling world, it would never be the same again. The year was 1992. WWE was in transition. The Attitude Era had ended, legends like Stone Cold and The Rock were starting to fade, and a new generation was needed.
And then, Brock Lesnar arrived. He didn't just walk down the ramp. He stormed into the company like a human hurricane. Suplexes, F5s, destruction. Week after week, Brock tore through opponents as if they were paper. He was given the nickname the next big thing. But the truth? He wasn't next. He was now. One by one, he destroyed veterans. Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Rob Van Dam. The crowd couldn't believe what they were watching. This wasn't a slow build. It was a rocket launch. And then came the test of tests. The Rock. SummerSlam 2002. The undisputed championship on the line. The Rock was Hollywood's golden boy, the fan favorite, the megastar. But Brock was a force of nature. The match was brutal. Power moves, roars, near falls. And then with one thunderous F5, Brock pinned The Rock clean. At just 25 years old, Brock became the youngest WWE champion in history. Here's a hidden gem. That record stood untouched for nearly 20 years, until Randy Orton barely broke it. But Brock's win still felt more shocking, more seismic. Overnight, the rookie became the face of WWE. But his reign was far from smooth. Because Brock didn't just want to be champion, he wanted to prove he was the most dominant athlete alive. And that meant facing legends. The Undertaker, Big Show, Kurt Angle.
Each match added to his aura. Each victory made the Beast name more real. His rivalry with Kurt Angle was especially legendary. Angle, an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, was the perfect counterpart. Technical brilliance versus raw power. Their matches were masterpieces. WrestleMania 19, the stage was set. Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship. The match was intense, physical, and unforgettable. But what made it iconic was one moment. A moment that could have ended everything. Brock climbed to the top rope. He attempted a shooting star press, a move no man his size should ever attempt. He flipped, crashed, and landed head first. The arena gasped. The commentators fell silent. Brock Lesnar was nearly paralyzed that night. But somehow, he kept going. Somehow, he finished the match and won the title. That moment summed up Brock's career. Dangerous, reckless, powerful, and impossible to ignore. But behind the dominance, something darker was brewing. Because as fast as Brock rose, he was about to fall. Not in the ring, but in his mind. Fame, travel, pressure. The WWE machine was relentless. And Brock Lesnar, the private farm boy from South Dakota, hated it. The crowds loved him, the money poured in. But deep down, Brock was miserable. And soon, he would make a decision that would shock the entire wrestling world. Brock Lesnar was on top of the world. WWE champion, a superstar, a household name. And then, he quit. Just 2 years after debuting, the unstoppable next big thing stunned fans by walking away. Why? Because Brock Lesnar was never built for the spotlight. The constant travel, the screaming fans, the politics of wrestling. He didn't want any of it. He wanted freedom. And he wanted football. Yes, football. Brock decided to chase a new dream, the NFL. He walked into tryouts with the Minnesota Vikings. And here's the shocking part. Despite having 0 college football experience, Brock almost made the team. One hidden gem. In training camp, Brock actually played in 2 NFL preseason games. He was cut before the regular season, but the fact he even made it that far without a football background, that's insane. But fate had other plans. An injury, a motorcycle accident, and the brutal reality of professional football ended that dream. For a moment, Brock was lost. No WWE, no NFL, no clear path. But then came the world of mixed martial arts. In 2007, Brock Lesnar signed with UFC. Many laughed. A WWE guy? Fake wrestling? He won't survive in real fighting. But Brock wasn't just another wrestler. He was an NCAA champion, a 265-pound freak of nature with real grappling skills and terrifying power. He debuted in 2008. His very first fight in UFC, he smashed his opponent in seconds. The crowd was stunned. Then came bigger challenges. Frank Mir, Randy Couture, Shane Carwin. Names that MMA fans respected, names that were supposed to humble Brock. But instead, Brock Lesnar made history. In just his 4th UFC fight, he defeated Randy Couture to become the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. Think about that. A man who left WWE, failed in football, and was mocked for even trying MMA, was now the most feared fighter on the planet. Here's another hidden gem. Brock's fight against Frank Mir at UFC 100 broke pay-per-view records, becoming the highest-selling UFC event at the time. Brock wasn't just a fighter. He was a box office phenomenon. But then, the Beast met his greatest enemy, his own body. In 2009, Brock was struck with diverticulitis, a life-threatening intestinal disease. At one point, doctors removed over 12 inches of his colon. He nearly died. The champion was broken, weak, hospitalized. The UFC world thought it was over. But Brock Lesnar doesn't quit. He fought back. He returned to the octagon, and though he eventually lost the title, his legacy was cemented. He had conquered WWE, he had conquered UFC, he had done what no other athlete ever had. But just when fans thought his story was over, Brock Lesnar shocked the world again. Because in 2012, the Beast returned to WWE.
The WWE universe had moved on. New stars had risen. John Cena was the face of the company. CM Punk was the Rebel champion. The Rock had even returned for Hollywood cameos. And then, out of nowhere, the Beast returned. Brock Lesnar stormed back onto WWE television after 8 years away. Bigger, meaner, more terrifying than ever. He didn't just come back for applause. He came back for war. His first target? John Cena. Their match at Extreme Rules was a bloodbath. Cena barely survived, but the message was clear. Brock Lesnar wasn't just back. He was unstoppable. From that moment, Brock was booked like a monster. Not a regular wrestler, not even a regular champion. He was an attraction, a special event. The Beast incarnate. And then came the night that will never, ever be forgotten. WrestleMania 30. The Undertaker. The Dead Man. The man with the sacred record in wrestling. 21-0 at WrestleMania. Nobody had ever beaten him on the grandest stage. Fans believed nobody could. The streak was immortal. But then Brock Lesnar stepped into the ring. The match was brutal, slow, punishing. And then, out of nowhere, Brock hit the F5. 1, 2, 3.
The bell rang. The crowd sat in silence. The Undertaker's streak was over. Brock Lesnar had done the impossible, and in that moment, his legend grew tenfold. He wasn't just a superstar anymore. He was the Conqueror. The fans couldn't believe it. Grown men cried. Commentators were speechless. And Brock? He stood there, smirking, as the most hated and most feared man in WWE. From then on, every appearance felt like an event. He destroyed John Cena at SummerSlam 2014 in one of the most one-sided beatings ever seen in a WWE title match. 16 suplexes, absolute carnage. That match gave birth to a new phrase, Suplex City, a nickname that fans still chant to this day. Here's another hidden gem. Brock's Suplex City line wasn't scripted. He yelled it during a match, and it instantly became a global catchphrase. For years, Brock dominated as a part-time attraction. He didn't need to wrestle every week. He didn't need to cut promos. He showed up,
destroyed legends, and left. Goldberg, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. Each opponent fell, some faster than others. And when Brock Lesnar's music hit, fans knew two things. Chaos was about to happen, and someone was about to suffer. But while Brock ruled WWE, another fire was burning inside him. Because Brock Lesnar has always been more than a wrestler. He's a fighter, a hunter, a man who needs new challenges. And that hunger would lead him back into the world of real fighting, even while still under a WWE contract. Most thought Brock Lesnar's UFC career was long finished. He was older now, rich, comfortable in WWE. But Brock Lesnar is not built for comfort. He craves battle. He craves danger. And so, in one of the most shocking announcements in combat sports history, Brock Lesnar revealed he was coming back to the UFC octagon.
The world gasped. Could he still do it? Could a WWE part-timer walk back into real fighting and survive? His opponent was Mark Hunt, a knockout artist, a man feared for his striking. The fight was brutal, tense, and real. And then Brock Lesnar dominated. With his wrestling, with his power, with his sheer will, he won by unanimous decision, proving that even years away, the beast was still real. Hidden gem. That fight at UFC 200 became one of the highest-selling MMA events ever, and Brock Lesnar was the biggest draw. Even in a sport filled with Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey, Brock still stole the spotlight. But controversy followed. After the fight, Brock tested positive for banned substances. The victory was overturned. His UFC career ended for good. Yet his reputation as a crossover monster was intact. No one could deny it anymore. Brock Lesnar was a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. And so he returned once again to WWE. Bigger, stronger, more dangerous. And this time, his aura was legendary. Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan. Every new hero, every fan-favored challenger, Brock was their final boss. He stacked up championship reigns, he headlined WrestleManias, and every time fans thought his dominance was over, he roared back. Then came 2021. WWE fans thought they had seen every version of Brock Lesnar. The monster, the destroyer, the conqueror. But then a new Brock arrived. Bearded, smiling, wearing flannel shirts and cowboy hats. This was Cowboy Brock. Still terrifying, still dominant, but now he showed a playful side. Cracking jokes, dancing in the ring, interacting with fans in a way he never had before.
And fans loved it. For the first time, Brock Lesnar wasn't just feared, he was fun. His feud with Roman Reigns during this time became one of the most important storylines in modern WWE history. The Beast versus the Tribal Chief. Two titans, two alphas, and the battles were epic. Even in defeat, Brock remained untouchable. Because here's the truth. Brock Lesnar didn't need wins anymore. He was the win. Just sharing the ring with him made careers. And through it all, he never stopped being himself. A man who hated fame, a man who never lived in Hollywood, a man who still spends his days hunting, fishing, and working on his farm in Saskatchewan, Canada. Hidden gem? Despite being one of the most famous athletes in the world, Brock Lesnar doesn't even own a cell phone. He's that private. From small-town farm boy to WWE champion at 25, to UFC heavyweight champion, to global icon, Brock Lesnar became something greater than any title. He became a myth, a legend, a real-life beast. But his story isn't finished, because legends never end. They evolve. And Brock Lesnar, love him or hate him, has already carved his name into the history of sports and entertainment forever. And so we come to the end of Brock Lesnar's story, at least for now. A boy from Webster, South Dakota, a farm kid who grew up lifting bales of hay, chasing dreams that seemed too big for his world. A man who became the youngest WWE champion in history, who walked away at the peak of his fame, who failed in football only to rise in UFC as the most feared heavyweight alive, who battled back from near-death illness to fight again, who ended the Undertaker streak, built Suplex City, and reinvented himself time and time again. This is not just the story of a wrestler, not just the story of a fighter. This is the story of a man who refused to be caged.
Because Brock Lesnar's life teaches us something powerful. You don't have to follow anyone else's rules. You don't have to live for the spotlight. You don't have to explain your choices. You can walk away. You can fail. You can disappear. And still come back stronger. Still come back as a conqueror. That's the lesson of Brock Lesnar. You don't have to be liked. You don't have to be understood. You just have to be undeniable. Here's a hidden gem. Even at the peak of his fame, Brock Lesnar once said, "I just want to be left alone on my farm. That's happiness for me." And maybe that's the ultimate twist. The beast incarnate, the conqueror of worlds, only ever wanted peace. But make no mistake, whenever Brock Lesnar's music hits, whenever that monster storms down the aisle or steps into a cage, the world watches. Because love him or hate him, nobody can look away. And maybe that's why his story feels unfinished. Because Brock Lesnar isn't just a man. He's a moment, a storm, a legend who leaves us wondering what he'll do next. So, when you think of Brock Lesnar, don't just remember the championships. Don't just remember the streak. Remember the journey of a boy who turned himself into the baddest man alive and never let the world define him. And if Brock's story lit a fire in you today, if it made you believe that you too can rise after failure, conquer your fears, and walk your own path, then don't let it stop here. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and join us for more epic journeys into the lives of legends who shaped history. Because this was the story of Brock Lesnar, the beast, the conqueror, the man who changed wrestling, fighting, and entertainment forever. And his legacy? It's only just beginning.